Hello, Ross Jordan with Inquiring International. Here today talking about CMMC compliance. We are on video 5, which talks about authentication and identification of individuals within your organization. So the 3 questions we always talk about. 1, plain English, what's this tell me? 2, how does this impact your company? And then thirdly, the questions for your IT team. This one's not complex. This one's pretty simple, really. Multi-factor authentication, 2-factor authentication, all of that should be a part of your organization already. Where I find this challenging for some organizations is there's really 2 sides to this spectrum, right? Side 1, you can lock this down and make this really challenging for people, but you lose convenience, and they tend to do shadow IT and find ways around it. On the other side of this curve, you have, it's very easy. It's convenient. Yeah, maybe an executive doesn't even have to do it. The challenge is that the balance is somewhere between the 2. You're going to have to find a way to make this compliant throughout your entire organization without making it so challenging that people find a way around it or try to find a way around it. So that's in plain English. What's this mean? 2, how does this impact your company? Very plainly, everybody has to have this. Everybody has to have this. I want to make that clear. Everybody has to have this. I work with a firm. It's been a client of mine for years, and I forced them to sign a release of liability because the CEO refuses to do 2-factor authentication because it's annoying. That made a statement. When I had them sign that, I said, I won't work with you anymore unless you do. I think the impact happened. The intended impact happened, if you will. The force in doing that is that you have to understand the people who want to attack your organization are the people looking for the highest level credentials they can get, which means your executive team. So those are the ones that usually thwart this. Not acceptable. They're the ones that are at most risk here. So make sure that everybody in your organization, even the janitors, even the people in the field, everybody has 2-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication going. And then we'll get to the questions for IT here in a second. So what is this, right? It's the management of the identities that are on your devices, that are attached to your network, that are attached to your systems. If they access your environment, they need to have this. It's a way to authenticate users. This is all the way from onboarding to offboarding. Think of it that way. It's an entire life cycle of an employee, but you have to make sure that they have more than one way to authenticate. By the way, authentication manners, people ask me all the time, what is the best? We use, in our organization, we use Microsoft's Authenticator. I've seen people use Google Authenticator, a multitude of others. I don't know that there's really a bad one out there. I think what matters is that there's a standard and you have to meet that standard. Complex passwords. This is also where this is addressed. Make sure that your passwords can't be like pass@word1, where it has to be reset when a device is set up. Still to this day, you'll find people that buy hardware and then leave the default passwords on there. The bad guys know that. They know what these come with, so they're going to try those first. So make sure every password is changed. Make sure the complex passwords, using numbers and ampersands and whatever other means you want, make sure that they are not short. They have to be more than 4 or 6 characters. The best passwords out there are usually a sentence, if you think about that, and then changing letters to alphanumeric characters and things like that. So make sure the complex requirements are there. Also make sure that they have to be reset after so many days. I think 30 days is too often. I think 90 days might be fair, but probably 60 days. Again, the requirement of doing this means that if somebody is in your network and you force a user to change their password, all of a sudden that individual or that bad actor no longer has access to your network. So let's get into what questions you need to ask your IT department. Do you have single sign-on? Are we set up as a single sign-on? It's a great process. Highly recommend it. But also too, how does it work? What standards do we keep? On the MFA and the 2FA, is it required? Is there anybody in the organization not using it? That's important. Please, if you hear things like, well, I don't, or my admins don't, or we're not required to, those are big red flags. Anybody that has access to change anything in your network, those are who the bad guys want into. So make sure that those are not people that are avoiding the mandate to use 2FA or multi-factor authentication. Which authentication method are we using? Like I mentioned, Microsoft Authenticator is just fine. onboarding and offboarding processes. How do you get their passwords out of your environment? How do you make sure when they're onboarding that they have access to the systems that they need? Also, too, that they also do not have access to systems they don't need. Make sure your high-risk users are protected. Are all the executives going through this? Are all of our admins going through this? Password standards. Make sure that your team has identified password standards, what the minimum requirements are, so on and so forth. And then auditing. Think about a protective audit. Who hasn't changed their password in a while? Do things like that. Ask your IT team how to identify who hasn't changed their passwords in a while. That, in a nutshell, is identification and authentication. Good luck.